Okay, good evening. This is the East Lyme Board of Selectmen regular meeting of April 15th, 2026 at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m., and we're at the East Lyme Hall Upper Meeting Room. I would ask anybody speaking tonight to speak into the microphone so that we get a good recording. And if we could rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I am not aware of any additional agenda or consent calendar items. Is there anyone that's aware of anything to be added?
No.
I will mention at this time that 3A is not going to be heard tonight. That's the SHIP grant. So if anybody is here on that matter, by agreement of our council and Black Point Beach Club's lawyers, there's a lot of details that have to be worked out, but we will certainly do all that we can to cooperate with Black Point on this grant. So,
Will it go on the next meeting?
yes, but we may have to call a special meeting. They have a deadline of, I
Okay.
think, the 29th.
Yep.
So if we can accommodate that, we'll do what we can to accommodate it, so they get the grant. But we have to work out some details.
Got it.
Are there any delegations tonight that would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Any delegations? Delegations? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 1st, 2026?
Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 1st, 2026 as submitted.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any changes? Is any?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Roseanne?
On page, well, we've got the cover page, so on the back of the cover page, halfway down, the paragraph begins with Lisa McGowan. All the applicants are qualified and the DTC will support, but it's not clear what they're supporting. Meaning they're supporting all candidates or?
What item number?
Where are you?
The paragraph begins with Lisa McGowan. It's about halfway down the page.
Oh, it's the first.
Oh, I see it. Okay, and the correction?
Well, the paragraph ends with, and the DTC will support. But as there are several other names on there, it's not clear what they're supporting.
Well, it says it will place an empty seat with another Democrat, as was the wishes of the voters in November. All the applicants are qualified, and the DTC will support. I guess them, I think, we're missing the word them.
That must be it.
All right, meaning any of
So
them.
should we add that in? We'll add them?
Yeah.
Make it correct. Very good, thank you. Any other changes?
Yes, on page 2 of the 4, halfway down the page, motion 3 and motion 4.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Mr. Deeble moved to nominate Tony Atanasio. Motion 4, he's identified as Anthony. As he's now on the board, I think we should have it clarified as to which he wishes to be known as.
Okay, well, let's ask.
Well, the sign says Tony, so
All right,
You like Tony?
Okay,
I make a motion that you are now
so
Tony.
we'll go with that one.
okay.
Okay?
So we'll correct motion number 4 to read Tony.
Yes, because somebody reading this might think that Tony had a cousin Anthony.
There we go.
So
All right.
Answer to both.
Anything else, Roseanne?
I'm set.
Okay. So, here's something. Oh, okay. So I need to amend the minutes to add under the executive session that Justin Porter left the executive session at 9:20 p.m. I just
Where
omitted
was
that.
Okay, that's.
So it would be
Oh, yeah,
under,
executive session.
um,
Yep.
so it says the board entered into executive session at 8:37, and then after that sentence, we should put in,
Justin Porter exited.
yeah, Justin Porter left the executive session at 9:20 p.m. And then it continues, the board returned at 9:51 p.m. And it was stated that no formal votes were taken.
Great.
So we need to add that in.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we're all in agreement on that. Any other changes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain because I was not a member at the time.
Okay. Very well. We'll go to item E, the consent calendar. There's only one item tonight. It's an overpayment. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar for April 15th, 2026 in the amount of $9,374.67.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Candace. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We'll now go to Section 2, Old Business. Item A, scheduling a town meeting for May 6, 2026. There's two items. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, move the following. Town of East Lyme, notice of special town meeting. Notice is hereby given of a special town meeting of the Town of East Lyme to be held on Wednesday, May 6, 2026 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the East Lyme Town Hall, Upper Meeting Room, 108 Pennsylvania Avenue, Niantic, for the following purposes. 1, to consider and act upon a motion to approve an appropriation of $14,000 of opioid settlement funds for the purpose of establishing the East Lyme Bicycle Unit. 2, to consider and act upon a motion to approve a special appropriation from the fiscal year 2026 NSEF grant, which was awarded on July 1st, 2025, in the amount of $79,009.68 to cover the cost of purchasing equipment and services for the Department of Emergency Management. 3, to transact any other proper business to come before the town meeting. Dated at East Lyme, Connecticut, this 15th day of April 2026, East Lyme Board of Selectmen.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Do we all have to sign that?
There should be a blank
should be-
copy for us to sign.
We'll pass that around. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that. I have one
There's
doc.
another red folder right next to you.
Yeah, I don't have that document. Can we just sign this one, or one of us yank it out of the notes?
Maybe we can make a copy of it, and then we
Okay.
can, let's try to
We'll
do that.
before we do.
Yes, let's try to remember that. Next, I just wanted to give a status, an update on the 830G moratorium application. We've talked about it from time to time. There's been a lot of work that's gone into it. It is now ready for the application to be filed with the town clerk. That may happen tomorrow or Friday. Everything has been prepared, but it'll certainly be done in the next few days. What happens is it gets filed with the town clerk. There's notice which has to be published in the Connecticut Law Journal. There'll be notice that'll be published in the day newspaper. And there'll be legal notice then that will be seen in the Connecticut Law Journal, and then legal notice that'll be seen in the day newspaper. So once it is published after submission, then that'll begin a 20-day period for public comment. So I point that out so people can be on the lookout for notice in the New London Day. When you see the legal notice, then if you are interested in making public comment, then that 20-day period begins on that date. So wanted everyone to be aware. So that's where we are on the 830G moratorium application. New business. As I mentioned earlier, the SHIP grant for Black Point Beach Club, we're going to continue that to another meeting, and I'm certainly willing to schedule a special meeting to accommodate the Black Point Beach Club so we can meet the timing deadlines. But our people have to talk to their people to get everything right here, because it's a little bit involved. So the lawyers are talking, and we'll see what we can get done. Next on the agenda for new business is to schedule the annual town meeting for Monday, May 11th, 2026. Do I hear a motion?
Move the following. Town of East Lyme notice of annual town meeting. Notice is hereby given of the annual town meeting to be held on Monday, May 11th, 2026 at the East Lyme High School auditorium at 7 p.m. to act on the following. 1, to review and discuss the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026, as recommended by the Board of Finance. A, in accordance with Chapter 7.3 of the Town Charter, the moderator shall adjourn the annual budget meeting to a referendum on the voting machines. The budget resolution will be submitted to the persons qualified to vote in a town meeting by referendum by machine vote, which referendum shall take place on May 21st, 2026, at the East Lyme Community Center from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 2, to adopt a 5-year capital plan. 3, to conduct such other business as may properly come before the meeting. Dated at East Lyme, Connecticut, this 15th day of April, 2026. East Lyme Board of Selectmen.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Mark it down, May 11th, 2026.
This will also need to be copied out of the,
Yeah, I might just grab mine out of the book
I was
after.
going to say, I have mine right here. Do you
Okay.
wanna just-
Yeah,
I
you can
could just
take
take
that
that out.
do you have the other one too?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I'll
let's-
say,
Then we can start passing those around.
yep.
And put them in a folder. That would be great. Thank you. All right, so next on the agenda tonight, and I believe there's some interest in this matter, it's a discussion by Parks and Rec about youth baseball field reservations. There has been some concern and angst over how that is accomplished, how it is done. It's been brought to the attention of the Board of Selectmen, and so we want to have an open discussion by all the various stakeholders in youth baseball, and allow them to address the board. In a moment, I'm going to invite Jerry Loken up to give us a presentation, but first, I would like to invite Attorney Robert Day, who is here tonight. I had asked Attorney Day, who is both a CPA and an attorney, to do a forensic look at the database dump of the field allocations, and to come up, if he could boil that down to a one-pager so that we could sort of get an idea of what, the value of that field time is. And there are some assumptions. I think some of them will be countered by Mr. Loken, and he's also done an analysis. But and I would point out that there'll be this page here for the board. Yeah. You see that? Okay. So, Rob, if you could explain what I asked you to do and what you prepared for us tonight.
First, I'd like to, thank you for having me. As Selectman Cunningham said, I'm Robert Day, an attorney. I am not actually a CPA. I do have a background in accounting, but...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, just for the record. Dan, I believe in December, called me and asked me to analyze records of field rental for the years 2023, 2024, and 2025, and focus on certain users of the field and summarize how many hours were used in each year for various activities by those users. And if you've got the summary sheet in front of you, you can see, kind of at a high level, it's Babe Ruth, Shell Shockers, and then I think through discussion, East Lyme Little League and Batter Up Baseball were looked at. And, none of this is to say that any conclusions were made at that time about these, but we wanted to know how many hours were used in each year, and then assign some value to those hours based on if the field were being rented to a not-for-profit type entity, a for-profit entity. And then we just looked at, there's time value of money, if the field should have been rented for a fee and it wasn't, what would the interest potentially look like on that, and then a total. And again, at the time that I was involved, there was, I think, analysis still going on as to which one of these exact line items need to be looked at a little bit harder, but this was a summary of the data that we had at the time for others, and perhaps this meeting tonight, to determine which line items, or perhaps all of them, are most relevant for the analysis.
Okay, thank you. So you took the data dump, and then from that you were able to sort it and come up with an analysis of hours, and we attach values to it. You don't necessarily go after interest, but you put that in there just for, so we'd have that information in establishing a value. Okay. Is there anyone on the board that wants to ask Attorney Day any questions about this?
I'm curious about the interest.
It's just federal APR, which is like a federal standard rate, and I would say that it's there for purposes of giving you an idea, again, of the time value of money, but it's not intended to be to the penny accurate. If you were to go borrow money in 2023, $1 times 60, I'm not saying you'd necessarily get $8.94 in return on it, but it's probably somewhere in that ballpark. And that's the first line that I'm referencing.
Yeah. I mean, we're really, for our purposes tonight, we're, I think, more interested in just the total fees of 60 an hour. And trying to get a sense
entirely
of-
up to the board.
Yeah, of course, yep. And any other questions of Attorney Day?
I was wondering, could you just kind of walk us through this? I'm just trying to kind of understand.
Yeah,
Is
so
that possible?
there is a larger spreadsheet. I don't know if you have it or not, but each one of these things, like just Babe Ruth or Babe Ruth baseball game or Shell Shockers camp, each of those was a reservation description in the larger spreadsheet.
Okay.
And some of them were in, I think, 1 or 2 years. Sometimes I don't see any that are in all 3 years. But as you can imagine, if you were reserving a field and you have to put it in a description, there's no pre-selected category, so you just kind of describe it, and then you end up with this data dump that has all these different categories. I pulled them and summarized for each year. So, like, my guess would be that 1 year it's Babe Ruth baseball practice, but then 1 year it's just Babe Ruth practice, right? Clearly, those are
It's the same.
same activities, but because they were described that way in the spreadsheet, they ended up in different lines. I wanted to keep the exact description that was in the source spreadsheet so that you could go back and say, oh yeah, Robert's right, there's baseball practice 2023 adds up to 72 hours or what have you.
Okay.
And so, like under 2023, just if you can kind of explain, like you've got 1, then 65, 72.
Right, that's the total
So
hours.
That was used for like
For that
Babe Ruth
description.
baseball game?
Correct.
Okay.
So for example, the second line down, just because it's not 1, Babe Ruth baseball game 65. That means that in 2023,
Okay,
that description, Babe Ruth baseball practice, was used for 65 reservation hours.
okay.
And it's not to say that, what happened in terms of, like, did they reserve it for 3 hours and they were there for 2 hours and 45 minutes? I don't know, but that's how
when they
it was
okay.
reserved, yeah.
Understood. Oh, and then you have the interest.
So the bottom line would be,
Okay.
in 2023, Babe Ruth reserved 194 hours, in 2024, 453, and then all
Okay.
told, in that final column, 1,013 hours.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm getting it. And then you did the same with the Shell Shockers in the East Lyme Little League.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the bottom is the total number of hours.
Grand
all of
total,
them.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, all right, I'm following it now. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Any other questions on this representation of the database? No. All right, I think we're all set.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Day. I appreciate you coming out tonight. Thanks. Take care. Okay, so this is probably a good time then, since we have this in front of us. I would invite Jerry, if you would, you did a similar computation, am I right? Of hours?
Good evening, Jerry Locken, Parks and Rec Director.
Do you have that?
I don't.
No, we only
Unless
got
it's in
this.
Oh, you were going to hand that out, right? You prepared that
Yeah.
this afternoon?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, he's going to
I
hand
just
that
have
out.
this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have mine that you gave me.
Thank you.
All right, now we're looking at different hours. Let's see. 2024. Oh, so we
Did
don't
you
have
both get the
2023.
numbers from the same spot?
Okay,
So
so,
if you want to explain this, and maybe
Sure,
we can
yes.
reconcile it to
yes,
some
thank
degree.
you very much.
Yeah.
I would say, just to start out, I'd say to Mr. Day there that much of what I came up with much closely reflects what he came up with, but there are a couple of changes. And just to share with everybody, our software system is, we can download a month at a time, and there are various settings or whatever, depending on who did the who did the data dumper created, you take 1 month and then you copy and paste it, and you add another month and you copy and paste it, and you add another month. Lots of data, and I think probably he would say there were probably thousands of lines in his in that workbook. So
you did get the numbers from the same
So,
spot?
no, we did not.
No.
We did not.
Okay.
I don't have access to whatever database he used. I will
Okay.
tell you that I did this analysis today. I had a discussion with the first selectman. He shared this sheet with me. I did an analysis myself today and redid it. So I would say there's a great deal of consistency, not exact consistency, but very close. I think, for example, Babe Ruth in 2024, the number on your sheet that Attorney Dave provided says 453 hours. Mine says 449. So,
Right.
within I'd say a reasonable
Yeah, they're not
amount.
shocking. The
Yeah,
only
that's a-
difference
So-
that I'm looking at is that you
So
have
with
the
that,
East Lyme Board on there.
the one place that there is significant difference, though, is under East Lyme Little League. His, bottom line total for all 3 years was like $26,000. On the sheet that I did, the total for 2 years, 2024 and 2025, is $140,000. So I'm not sure why whatever database he was using didn't include much of Little League, but I can say Little League is by far the biggest user of fields. I mean, there are 4 Little League fields plus fields at Bridebrook that they use. I'm not exactly sure the data that he was using, whether it was a complete dump or whether certain facilities weren't included or whatnot. So I really, without kind of really deep diving into that. So basically though, bottom line for Babe Ruth, bottom line for Shell Shockers, I pretty much agree within, maybe, just a small percentage, but certainly I think there is a difference in the East Lyme Little League line. So if
There
anybody
might
has
have been
any
some different
questions.
assumptions on the,
Yeah.
on the Little League.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just one,
Go ahead.
just one quick question. So you have Little League, Babe Ruth, Shell Shockers, and then East Lyme Board of Ed?
Yeah, I threw that in there just kind of it was an interesting thing, because when I did it, I had all kinds of things. In my database, I separated every kind of individual group out there. Even soccer teams would have come out on the report that I did, because soccer teams play in the outfield of a baseball field, so they would have come out. So there's all kinds of things that I screened out. But just kind of as an interesting thing, the East Lyme High School plays on our fields, and that's, the approximate amount of time that they use.
Oh, so that's under the Board of Ed? Is
Yeah,
that
they
what
don't,
that is?
and we certainly don't charge them, no.
And we didn't do an analysis of the board.
No.
But I would just point out that if we look at just the Babe Ruth line.
Yep.
So for 2024, we were pretty close. Let's see, Babe Ruth, 2024, we had 453, yours was 449,
And 366 and
It was right on.
366, right on.
right on, yeah.
Yep.
And then Shell Shockers was, let's see, where's
4 and 183
Yeah.
was what I came up with, and
We
it
had
was
4
4 and 199 on the sheet
199.
that,
Okay,
okay? So,
So-
yeah, very, very close.
very close, okay. All right, so I don't want to, so that just kind of gives us an overview of the hours involved and some potential values depending on how we look at it. So at this time, then, you have a presentation that you would like to...
So did the Board of Selectmen get copies of that, or is that presentation available on?
I have the presentation.
Okay.
Yep.
So unfortunately, I guess I don't think we're going to get that on the screen. But yeah, I'll just go through it myself and try to see. So you have a PowerPoint presentation there. So in the town, we have various sport leagues, and I've listed them on your sheet. Little League Baseball and Softball, Babe Ruth Baseball, Youth Soccer, Youth Lacrosse, Youth Football, and Youth Basketball leagues exist. Everything but youth basketball kind of intersects with Parks and Rec in some way. They're using our fields. Youth basketball is a separate organization that basically uses schools. So it doesn't involve Parks and Rec, but we're aware that they're out there and do our best to support them in whatever way we can as well. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that each of these leagues is a little bit different. They have different rules that they follow and different governing bodies that kind of determine what the rules of their leagues are. how they register teams, how they train their coaches, how they form teams, how they issue uniforms, who can serve on the board, what do our uniforms look like. You know, they decide what they do. And so that's gone on for years. Youth sports in town is been around, and I'm sure many of us remember participating ourselves. Today, youth sports, the next slide is, has evolved. Sports are now year-round. Primary, baseball is no longer just a spring sport. Soccer is no longer just a fall sport. These sports happen all year round. They have a primary season that kind of corresponds to what many of us remember, but there's also additional season and even indoor seasons on many sports. And participation in travel teams is commonplace now. And in fact, it's kind of, it used to be a time when it was kind of unusual that people would participate in a travel league. Now it's absolutely commonplace. People, just nearly everybody involved in youth sports is participating on a travel team. And often kids play in more than one league at a time. Sometimes they might play in a select soccer team, but they're also playing for their town park and, their town recreational league. So maybe the same sport, maybe a different sport, depending on, what the kids are interested in. Parents really are trying to provide that opportunity for their kids. So that's, I think, we definitely support that. So community athletic fields, the fields that we have at Brybrook, the fields we have at Vets Park, the fields we have at Smith Harris, which most people refer to as the middle school, those fields are the traditional home of youth sports. And beyond that, there are now providers. We've got Wide World of Indoor Sports up there in Montville. There's other indoor facilities that are popping up where people are going to participate in youth sports. So that's now more commonplace. So we have, I kind of talked about this community aspect or these recreational leagues. Moving on to travel teams. This is just a sampling of some of the teams. There are more out there, but travel teams for soccer: Southeast Soccer Club, Connecticut Rush, DOCA, Shoreline Lacrosse. Baseball has the Shell Shockers, the Crush, the Breakers, the Storm, Hammerheads, and I can't even name all those baseball teams. Shoreline Sting for softball. So each of these leagues, these travel leagues, have different degrees of competition and maybe even cooperation with youth sport teams. Some of them, as I mentioned there on the slide, some say, to participate in this travel team, you have to first participate in your town's, recreational or kind of youth sport league. Some say if you participate in that, you can't participate in ours. Some say, there's, and kind of everything in between. And Dan the other day asked me about Venn diagrams, and I apologize for this is maybe the crudest Venn diagram ever. But one circle is kind of travel and community leagues all together. All the kids playing, a particular sport. If this would be the Venn diagram for if you're in our travel league, you have to also be in your town's recreational league. That's the circle. It's the same circle, the same kids. You can't participate in one if you don't participate in the other. There's the other, where they touch. Some of the teams may be allowed to participate, or some of the kids, not teams, it's more likely some of the kids can participate in more than one league, and they touch, so you can do both. And then there are others like if you're with us, you can't be with them. So those are the circles that don't touch. Okay, so I hope that kind of explains it in a simple way. And each league, depending on the league, they make their own rules. Which one of these choices are we going to operate under? In terms of East Lyme Parks and Rec support of youth sports, and certainly the mission of East Lyme Parks and Rec is to encourage the use of its fields. I mean, that's That's what these fields exist for. We encourage the use. We do kind of talk about organized use by leagues or travel teams. When it's organized use, we have a set of criteria that we implement. They have to provide us with insurance, make reservations, book the field through our office. There may be fees charged, all those things. That's what we do when there's organized use. Unorganized use is equally important, and in some ways even more important for us, because these are public spaces, and when they're not being reserved, and when these fields are just out there, they're parks. We want people to go out and use our parks. The more people that are using our parks, the better we're doing our job, the better we're meeting our mission. So unorganized, casual use of our parks is encouraged, and we actively support that. So the hard part about this, or maybe the more complicated part, comes on the slide dealing with indicators of organized versus unorganized. And there is no perfect definition, or at least if we haven't found it. So I use the word indicators on purpose. Just because somebody has a group of people on a field and there happens to be a referee or an umpire there, it's a strong indicator that it's organized, but just because that box is checked doesn't mean that that's organized. The other indicators are, if the schedule is announced publicly, if teams are easily identified with rosters and designated coaches, whether they're using the scoreboard, whether the coaches are kind of leading the activity on the field. All of those things we look at, and those are indicators, and if you have all of those boxes checked, I'd be hard-pressed to find a situation where I wouldn't say that's organized. You check all those boxes, that's going to be a pretty strong indication that you're organized. Conversely, on the other side, if there aren't any game officials there, if it wasn't an announced schedule published that everybody knows about, if it's hard to identify who's on what team, if the scoreboard isn't in use, if the coaches aren't really leading the activity, or if there are even any coaches there, those are indicators that it's casual, unorganized use that we encourage. Moving on. So for those who are organized, organizations or leagues or teams or whatever, they request the fields from East Lyme Parks and Rec. East Lyme Park and Rec then takes those, looks at what's available, says, yes, we can fit you on. If the fields are available, we generally say yes, and we issue reservations. And when we do that, we're also collecting that insurance. We're checking on things about the leagues. This is some of these things that are listed are something that we're just now beginning to implement for the first time this spring. Talking about whether people have their bylaws and incorporation papers with the state of Connecticut, IRS 990s, lists of board members, and those kinds of things. And the discussion with why we're doing that checklist is to help youth sport leagues and to support them. Oftentimes, these folks who are organizing these youth sport leagues are volunteers. They're not paid staff. They're volunteers who have day jobs, who are out there doing whatever. Maybe the outgoing board members from last year gave them a handbook with everything they needed to know, and all they got to do is flip to the next page and do it. That would be highly unusual in my experience. Normally it's like, my kids are done, I'm done with this, I'm walking away, and the next person, good luck with making sure everything's in line. So that's kind of one of the reasons we came up with this checklist. It's a way to help leagues and those new volunteers kind of, what do I need to know as a volunteer involved in youth sports? What types of things should I pay attention to? That's our attempt at just helping them. It's not kind of a to be used as a bad you if you didn't have your complete list of board members, or if you've got a vacancy on your board, or all those kinds of things. We're there to support, help, and educate, or to assist when we can. So After we get these reservations, and we get them from all kinds of these people, recreational leagues, travel leagues, high school, adult leagues, whoever's requesting use of these parks, we give priority, number 1, to schools, number 2, rec sport leagues in town, number 3, we kind of go down the list, youth sports and then adult sports, and, there's a priority list that we have, and youth sports are right there near the top, with Board of Ed. And everybody else kind of, you get what's left over after we've allocated this space to these other leagues. And going on, youth sport leagues actually give a lot of support to the community. Youth sport leagues often donate to make improvements to our fields. They build, in town, restrooms, press boxes, storage areas, donated materials to be used on fields, contracted maintenance or construction at some of our parks, add amenities, purchase like goals or benches or scoreboards, and volunteers certainly give their time to clean up and, do maintenance tasks. So, the challenge for Parks and Rec is to kind of, when you've got, this army of volunteers, a bunch of well-intentioned people, that's herding cats or what have you. But certainly, there's everybody, has their ideas on how best to grow grass. Everybody's got their best ideas on how to line a field. Everybody's got their best ideas about, how big a goal mouth should be, how to rake a field, all kinds of things people have opinions on. So we just, try to make it clear with everybody that, the ultimate decisions about how these fields are going to be cared for, lies with the park staff that maintains these fields every day. We have a responsibility to maintain these fields in a safe and appropriate manner, and we're going to be the kind of the final authority on what it is. So when somebody says, hey, we want to purchase some material for the field, we'll say, okay, great, I thank you, great, but please buy this product. If somebody wants to have a contractor come in and do some work on the field, we say, great, let's talk about what it is that you're planning to do to make sure that it's in concert with what we're trying to accomplish in maintaining those fields. So, that there's all of those, like I say, dealing with all those kinds of different opinions, that's a bit of a struggle, but, it's something that is commonplace. It's something that we do every day, something we do our best to be good listeners and, take feedback in, but at the end of the day, it truly is a Park and Rec responsibility to decide, yes, we allow this, or no, we won't allow that, okay? I guess, and one more thing I'll say about that, Park and Rec, we have a duty to maintain safe fields, and we will maintain fields in, the best practice that we can and to the point our resources allow. I mean, if we deem a field isn't safe, we will close the field and say, I'm sorry, the field isn't safe, we need to fix it, and, you'll have to, hold off on using it. That often happens like after like a monsoon rain or something. The field is too wet, it's not safe to use it, or it'll cause too much damage or whatever. So we do at times close fields for if something was a safety hazard or that type of thing. And kind of going back to that whole maintenance thing, there are lots of different opinions on what's safe. Is it safe if we've got a puddle? Is it safe if we've got a lake? Is it safe if we've got, what's the factor there? And again, Park and Rec is going to allow use when it's safe in the best opinions of those professionals who are charged with managing it. And, we'll say yes if it is, we'll say no if it isn't. Leagues themselves may look at a field and say, this isn't safe. And in those situations, I think leagues have a duty. If the official shows up on the field, and even though Parks and Rec says it's okay, if the league official or the coach or the whoever says this isn't safe, they've got a duty to say, we don't think it's safe and we're going to not play the game. So, there's multiple layers of that. So I just want to make sure that everybody's kind of aware of that, dynamic, I guess, of potential differences of opinion there. So the town, because we have these different opinions about maintenance and different opinions about safety, if a league comes to us and says, hey, we think that the field could be improved by doing X, Y, or Z, and we agree, we think it's safe, but they want to make it safe plus better, or, raise the level. We could all go be playing at, Yankee Stadium or, Fenway, or, but there's different levels, what's safe versus what's the ideal. And, to the degree that youth sport leagues might want to make their facilities better, and it coincides with us and what our maintenance, plan for that field is, we say yes. Yes, you can bring in more material. Yes, you could hire somebody to, reshape a mound. Yes, you could buy new goals. Yes, you can, we say yes to those things. And beyond that, in baseball in particular, if you go to the baseball fields, you'll see a lot of sponsorship signs and banners on fences at the middle school. We allow those youth sport leagues to kind of go out into the community and seek sponsors who donate money in exchange for putting their banners up at those fields. Those leagues collect that money and are able to use it in support of their leagues. So, it's a cooperative relationship. The leagues provide resources to the town kind of allows these leagues to develop resources, and it goes back into making a stronger and more vibrant program overall. So, a couple other notes there. When people do things, when they put that scoreboard in, when they build that restroom, and something is permanently affixed to the ground, hey, that's town property. I get that you guys have your blood, sweat, and tears and effort behind that, but in the end, it's town property. You put that restroom in, it's now a town facility. That type of thing. So I just, go ahead.
May I ask you a
Sure.
question? So, in these moments, because partnership is everything, right? And relationships are everything, and I think that that's great. But it can go awry if someone is giving a gift and then has an expectation once they give it. So is that-
Yes, I think that's a very clear point. And I think that's where, when those conversations are had, when a league comes to the department and says, hey, we want to do X, Y, Z, I am very open and honest and upfront. And I tell them, that's great, we think that will enhance the park, but I just want you to be aware before you do this, that when this work is done, it belongs to the town. So I don't want to, sugarcoat that, and I don't want to dissuade you from doing it, but I just want to make sure that you're aware of that reality.
One more.
Sure.
When that's done, is it verbal? Is it a handshake, or is it written? Is it written anywhere that such and such is?
Yeah,
doing
I
this,
guess
da-da-da-da-da,
it would generally be in a conversation with folks, and likely there's probably email confirmation, but I haven't written any MOUs with a league saying, we're building this or we're putting the scoreboard up and it will become the property of the town. But even right now, I think the soccer club is trying to put a scoreboard on Kessler Field at Bridebrook. These are conversations I have going back and forth saying, yes, we're working with you, you're raising the money, and we're telling you where it can possibly go. But in the end, you put the scoreboard out there, it's going to be a town asset. And so, there's email stuff, but there isn't, like I say, I haven't written a formal MOU with, not since I've been here.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
So, and then I guess, to take that step further, I put a statement on here: the town acceptance of those donations does not create any kind of exclusive use agreement for the league or whoever donated or ownership rights. And I kind of liken this to, like when volunteers do something for the community good, my analogy is if somebody goes down and does a beach cleanup, they don't own the beach or they don't have any exclusive use of that beach. It's the same on a field. If we come in and we make an improvement on a field, that really, yes, it helps you out, but it also helps everybody else out in town. So, it doesn't, we're not just going to let you benefit. That benefit is going to be shared among everybody in town.
So if I may, there's been a custom and a past practice, if you make an improvement on a field or a scoreboard or something, a restroom, that's very nice and the town appreciates it, but there's no exclusivity with that. No
Correct.
organization has exclusive use of any improvement they make on town property. Is that your understanding? And is
That is correct. Anything that's affixed to the property, that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess let's see if I had anything else to say kind of about that.
So,
I guess, go
quick
ahead.
question. Do they just talk to you when reservations are made because you're the director?
No.
No.
Thankfully, no. Our recreation supervisor in our office, Joey DiFilippi, is the main point of contact for booking fields. And I can't tell you how much time out of Joey's week is spent booking fields. Like right now, we've got lacrosse, soccer, baseball, softball, travel team. I mean, there's probably 10 leagues operating in town right now, including the high school teams and stuff like that. It's an incredible, complicated, detailed, flexible, changing process to book all of these fields for all of these teams.
Is there software? I'm sorry.
Yes, we do have software, yes.
So do people like email in or do they call? Because I
All
know,
of the
like,
above. They may be texting him, Initially, typically what happens is somebody says, here's our game schedules, or
That's what I was about to
we get a
ask.
big
That's my next
thing,
question.
and then the first rainstorm happens, or the first, whatever happens, the high school shifts a game, and therefore we're shifting, it's dominoes. So, I've never seen a season go perfectly, and it's absolutely a daily endeavor to keep up with changes and flexible, it's just the nature of the beast.
And then do people approach you about, say, putting in a scoreboard or any kind
Indeed.
of
Indeed.
like material, that kind
Indeed,
of thing? So
yes.
you're the one.
They
for
should
that.
be, yeah. If they call the office, they're going to end up speaking to me about that, yes.
Okay, got it.
And-
Thank you.
And then I have a question. And so as these reservations are being made and the data is being put into this database, there are several different entities that reach out to Joey and feed that database.
Yes.
And some are exempt from paying fees because they're a nonprofit. Is that right? Is that how it works? Is it
I would
as simple
say-
as that, or is it more complex?
It's not as simple as that, no. We have kind of recognized youth sport leagues in town that we, exempt from fees. And, to be honest with you, that's something that, I think, the Board of Selectmen may have seen our park rules. Right now, the commission is, kind of working, is there a better way to define who's exempt and who isn't exempt from those fees? Certainly, I think it could be something kind of akin to the thing I talked about, organized versus unorganized earlier. It may be indicators of things. I think being a nonprofit organization is an indicator that, this group is probably acting in the community interest. But does that mean if they're, not for profit that they automatically qualify? I don't think that's the case. And if they aren't a not-for-profit, are they automatically excluded from being classified as I'm not sure the reverse is true either. I mean, it's an indicator, but it's not an absolute.
So
I'd have to
do-
take more information into account, yes.
So when you're doing this, do you have a list saying like, okay,
Yes.
A, B, and C are
Yes.
considered,
Yes. We have-
organized, and
Yes.
you get a payment for them?
Yes, in the park rules, there are references to youth sport organizations, and Little League gets access to this concession stand. Babe Ruth gets access to that. There are specific things written in there, and those are, I think they've developed over time. But we know that East Lyme Youth Soccer, we know East Lyme Youth Lacrosse, we know Little League, we know Babe Ruth, we know East Lyme Youth Football. We know these are the community sport leagues for kids. I mean, these are leagues that provide the widest opportunity for kids in the community. Like if your kid wants to play and they go to Little League is going to say yes. It's not like your kid's not good enough. It's your kid wants to play, then this is the spot for them. So that, that's the type of organization that we exempt from fees, those that provide that widest opportunity in the community for people to participate without kind of respect to, things like skill level or ability to pay or, those kinds of things. The people that do that the best, those are the organizations we're going to support the most. Does that make sense?
Is that decision made at a board level, or is that administrative?
Well, like I say, it's kind of history has shown us that, East Lyme Youth Soccer is the soccer league, and they continue to operate in that way. If it's, Babe Ruth, Little League, lacrosse, or whoever else I mentioned, those are well-known things in the town. Some of them have things written in the park rules specifically, like I mentioned, that this concession stand, we give them the opportunity to run this concession stand. It's another strong indicator, those types of things. But generally in the community, we know this is community recreational sports, and then there are travel teams and others. Yeah. Yep. So I guess the next slide talks about kind of how does East Lyme Park and Rec respond to unauthorized use. So unauthorized use could be a couple of things. One is it could be somebody who's an organized user of a park that doesn't have a permit. It also could be a group of people on the park that's not organized, but they're maybe doing something that's maybe damaging or in somehow detrimental. So from a Parks and Rec standpoint, I've talked about how the department and the commission wants people to use these fields. We're going to approach those people calmly, respectfully, friendly, and kind of work towards compromise. People in these youth sports are good people. They're in there because they want to help their kids play and they enjoy it, and all of those things align. When we go up and we kind of explain the situation to somebody who's maybe doing damage to a field, hey, could you please stay out of the batter's box because there's a game this afternoon and we don't want to kind of make an unsafe condition. Would you guys mind, moving over there? 99 times out of 100, people comply. If there's a youth sport organization out there that doesn't have a permit and they're on the field, and we go say, hey, are you aware that you need to have a permit? This is the process. Would you please, when we have organized use, we need to make sure that you have insurance. People, they're responsive to that. They would, they get that and they understand it. So we do our best to, be calm, be friendly, be accommodating, be understanding, but explain the desired result, and most of the time it works. We go out of our way not to be intimidating or, really vigilant or looking over people's shoulder or, all that kind of stuff, because, the end result of that can be that we dissuade people. Like if I go down there, am I going to get hassled? That's not what we want people to think. We want people to use these fields for the purposes that they were built. They're public fields, the public has a right to use them, and we're going to be as flexible as we can and as friendly when issues arise as we can to kind of just gain compliance and cooperation, and 99 times out of 100, that's what we get. Okay, so, and I guess I'll just end this, the last slide I have is kind of about the Park and Rec Commission. And as I've said here, they are clear about their interest in supporting youth sport organizations. The checklist that we're just now beginning to implement is designed to help youth sport organizations. We're considering some changes to the park policies and regulations to better define organizations that are exempt. Since we've had these discussions going on in the community, we recognize that that's probably a need. It's not clearly laid out in our park rules. The commission is considering that. We have a meeting tomorrow night. It's on the agenda. I mean, it's been on the agenda for a couple of meetings now. So we are working towards that. The commission is working towards that. We're also working, me in particular, I am working on a rubric that's going to allow me to increase the transparency for when we modify fees. Believe it or not, sometimes we get, people that, the fees that the Park and Rec Commission has chosen to charge everybody, sometimes that becomes a barrier, and the commission has given the director the authority to kind of modify those fees when it makes sense. Unfortunately, that's written in the rules, but it's not well defined. So my attempt here is going to be to get the commission to, kind of approve a rubric that will kind of say, we will allow for the fees to be modified in these cases. And in fact, actually, sometimes I charge less and sometimes I charge more. If they're using a park in the middle of the summer, and the fee says it should be $50, but we're displacing a bunch of beachgoers on a day, well, you're not going to reserve that for only $50. That's going to be, the director is going to, probably raise your fees to recover for the taxpayers of the town what the citizens are losing by allowing you to have this exclusive rate. So it can go both ways. We can charge less when certain conditions are met, or we could charge more if other conditions are met. So that's discretion that the commission has given the director, but we want to quantify that in a more transparent way. And I fully support that, and I think the members of the commission fully support that. It's just kind of, in the process of being finalized.
So does the Joey DiFilippo, is
No.
that his name? Does he do the?
He would not. Joey,
He's just
he might
scheduled.
get the request, but he's going to have to come to the director to get that
Okay.
approval.
That's what I need.
Can I just suggest to you also
Excuse
that...
me, can you
Oh, I'm
just pull that a
sorry.
little closer?
Yeah,
to the-
I really have a hard time hearing too, Candace,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. I'm so afraid I'm going to scream into it. So what I would like to suggest to you also moving forward, and I would say this if we were sitting down during the commission or here, it's just best practice, all right? It sounds to me like we really need a strong infrastructure here, because it could be loosey-goosey. There's a tremendous amount of people utilizing the fields, quantifying who's nonprofit, who is not, who gets dibs, the whole thing, okay? If there is any entity that is giving a gift, this is a very nice thing, right? This is a great partnership. It brings out even more partnership. However, it should be written. There should be some sort of document, okay, that is stating, that is very clear, that does not mean that this is now your field in any way, shape, or form, okay?
Yep,
So
we
I would
agree.
just like to suggest that.
Yeah, I think the commissioners would agree with that as well. Yep. And then I guess the final thing listed here was that staff members have developed that checklist that we talked about to kind of help youth sport organizations, and that's something that's kind of gone through the commission as well. So that checklist, again, meant in a supportive way, not in a gatekeeping way, but in a supportive way to help these youth sport organizations and the volunteers who, maybe were thrust into something that they weren't fully aware of everything they needed to do. In that kind of a.
I am completely in agreement with the checklist because we're this town is built on volunteers. We're built on relationships. No matter where you're looking at, if you're looking at creative preschool and play school when my kids were little, or whatever sports program, you're going to find the volunteers, you're going to find the parents, okay? That's what's feeding it. And quite often, you're very right. There are people that are coming in now that had no idea, right? And there's no book that's going, unless somebody before you was type A, that was like strategically saying, this is what you do at the first of the year. You're making sure that your permit, if it is a nonprofit, is up to date, right? And all of those
Indeed.
other things that are part of it.
Indeed.
If there are people that are utilizing anything that is town-owned and they do not have insurance, that's a huge liability on our town. So we need to make sure that those things are all up to date. I do have a question, just because there's three, well, then we have the East Lyme Board of Ed over here, but I'm really just asking about, I got Babe Ruth in front of me, Shell Shockers, and East Lyme Little League.
Yep.
About how many kids do we have an idea of how many kids are actually participating in the East Lyme Little League, which is East Lyme, Shell Shockers? Is Shell Shockers nonprofit or is it for profit?
I'm not aware that the Shell Shockers is a nonprofit organization, so.
Okay, do we have a number of how many kids are possibly part of that program?
Okay, so I'm aware that there are some folks from the Shell Shockers here who may be able to answer that question. Would you care to hear from them?
And I would ask the same of the Babe Ruth, and is the Babe Ruth nonprofit or are they for profit?
Okay, so Babe Ruth is, I believe, nonprofit, but
Okay.
I don't know, again, indicators.
Well,
I
if
know
somebody
Babe
has
Ruth
those
is, yeah,
numbers,
Babe
that'd
Ruth
be
is a recognized exempt user, like somebody that we wouldn't charge fees for. But in terms of how many people there are representatives here from Babe Ruth, that could probably answer that question as well. So
Okay.
would you care to hear from Shell Shockers
I'd
or
like to
Babe Ruth?
invite them if, yeah,
Okay, so
why
how
don't we do
about
that? I thought that would be wise.
Shell Shockers?
If they could identify, yeah.
And
If you come to
so
the podium.
come to the podium, please. Yeah. And
And you can
name
just say
and
your name.
address, please.
Yeah, your name.
So we have for the record, in your role.
Good evening. I'm Eric Parker. I'm here on behalf of the Connecticut Shell Shockers.
Hi, Eric.
Nice to see you all. A couple of the other coaches are here with us as well. We were just trying to do rough math by counting rosters and figuring out how many kids were on
Just
it to
to
tell you
round
the
it out,
total
isn't it?
number.
So,
Do you want to say?
yeah.
Joel Ferrier.
Joel Ferrier, 33 Quarry Lane. We have like 2 teams for each level. There's like an 8U, 9U, 10U, 11U, 12U.
They may not know what you can.
And so what that means is, each one means that's the oldest level. So an 11U would be the oldest you could be, would be 11. And then anybody under that age, because sometimes you get a kid that's just too big for a 9U, you know, whatnot. And so similar to youth soccer or other sports in town. And so for each one of those teams, we have 11 or 12. And I think we have 1 8U, 1 9U. We have 2 10Us, 2 11Us, 1 12U. Yeah, so we're looking well over hundreds of kids.
150 or so kids.
And I can say with certainty, approximately 80% of those kids in that organization are all East Lyme residents.
Okay. Thank you
So.
for that. Okay. About 150.
And
We have some other information to present if you're interested in it. I don't know if now's the right
So-
time or if you want to continue with.
I don't want to interrupt Jerry,
Yeah,
but I
that's
do
what I-
want to hear from you, and I'd like to ask some questions as well, so.
Do you want to finish?
Yes, just one more second.
Good
Hi
evening.
there.
My name's Steve Lasitra. I'm the president of East Lyme Babe Ruth.
Hi, Steve.
I've been
Good.
president for Babe Ruth for about 8 years now.
Okay,
Hey, Steve.
welcome.
Right now, we have 3 chartered teams under Babe Ruth International or Babe Ruth League. 2 13s, 1 14, and we will, that's for spring season. Our seasons come out into three different seasons, just to give you a heads up on Babe Ruth. So we only have to charter 3 teams for spring. We don't have to recharter for summer, so if we end up having 2, 3 teams, if we go to a 4 team in the summer, I'd have to charter another team to have 4.
Okay.
Then in the fall, we can have up to 3 teams that are chartered under the current charter. We are a 501c3, everything like that, which we file with the federal IRS. We have approximately, with the 3 teams now for the spring season, we have approximately 36 to 40 kids. And that's been an average for the last 4 or 5 years, stuff like that.
Well, I do have some questions,
Okay.
if you don't mind. So Babe Ruth is a 501c3,
Correct.
and so they get treatment under the rules for Parks and Rec that you don't have to pay for field use, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then, but you have 3 teams. Now, are those 3 teams, are they just Babe Ruth, or are they Shell Shocker teams that are playing as Babe Ruth? Can you explain that relationship? Because that's really the crux of the question that's been presented to us.
Okay.
We need to understand that
Sure.
relationship to see if everything's on the level, or if there's some changes that need to be made. So help us understand that.
Okay. Basically, when I got involved in Babe Ruth, I'm going to go back a few years.
Yeah.
Over 8 years ago, and prior to that, we always had travel teams. As Babe Ruth evolved and less teams in the general area. So we have kept on evolving, we kept on traveling, we kept on doing this travel, playing in tournaments, playing in leagues, playing all over the place. So as the numbers, rec leagues in town dwindled to maybe one team a year, and usually that's during the summer, we took the travel program. So in District 2, has a variety of towns, whatever. I don't know how many towns we have in District 2. District 2, any kid that is not chartered with a Babe Ruth team can play for any chartered Babe Ruth team. That's the current rule for District 2. Or actually District 3, sorry, my
So
fault.
what district are you?
District 3, sorry, we're District 3.
You're District 3, okay.
District
yeah.
3.
Kinda get it.
So what ended up happening was, like I said, throughout the years, we've had travel teams, one or two or three travel teams that would go all over the state, go all over to Massachusetts, Rhode Island, everything like that. Participating both as a travel team and Babe Ruth. And playing in Babe Ruth tournaments, playing in AAU tournaments, playing in AAU leagues and stuff like that. East Shore League, a Massachusetts League, and everything like that. Go ahead.
So, question. You have the Babe Ruth, which is a 501c3, then they participate in travel. What's the charge for them to be in these travel teams, in the AAU and all that?
It varies, depending on which leagues you're part of.
So the kids can play in, say, the Babe Ruth, and that's like a minimal cost, I would assume, if it's...
There's a minimal
town.
cost.
Yeah, when my son played, I remember that. But if they play in the travel, then...
There's an additional cost. It depends on how many tournaments
Okay.
or a league they get into. That could range anywhere from a couple $100 up to $1,000.
Okay, and the travel is not a 501c3, and the AAU is not a 501c3, am I correct?
When they're under my umbrella, so they'd be under my 501c3. All the travel programs. And they're participating as, even though it might not say East Lyme Babe Ruth, they can participate under mine under a different name. We've had that throughout the 8 years or 12 years or 15 years that I've been doing, off and on. My son's been out of baseball for 8 years now, but prior to that, we were the Raiders, we were the Vipers, we were the Connecticut Warriors, now the Connecticut Shell Shockers, all that throughout the years.
But I think the question is, if I have a kid who wants to play Babe Ruth baseball, can I play in the Babe Ruth League? Do I have to pay money to a for-profit entity? Or can I just play and just pay this minimal amount and be part of the team that plays on Babe Ruth?
Yes,
You can.
yes.
And you don't have to be part of the travel team?
No.
Part of it?
Nope. If we get enough kids, they're like, I'll give you an example. Last year, we had a summer team. It's formed. Call the coach up. Are you guys going to play games when you're practicing? No, it just fell apart. No interest in the kids. This is the district commissioner of District 3.
Hi, my name is Anna Stefanski.
Oh,
I'm
sorry, you have to
Are
speak
you
into the
named-
microphone, we can't hear you.
I'm District Commissioner for Babe Ruth in District 3. My name is Anna Stefanski. In answer to your question when you asked about the players playing in Babe Ruth or AAU or the Shell Shockers, some of the kids that play for Shell Shockers could just play for Shell Shockers. Some of the kids that play for Babe Ruth could just play for Babe Ruth. But you could have them intertwined with each other. So some of the kids that are on a Shell Shocker team could also play on the Babe Ruth team. You can have some of the Babe Ruth kids playing on a Shell Shocker team. Doesn't mean all the kids on Shell Shockers and all the kids on Babe Ruth are playing on each team. It varies,
I get
depending on how the kids want to play.
That's why we need Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
Same thing. But no,
So I
let's
just- I
let's
wanna-
answer the...
I
we
have
more
something.
questions.
Okay. If
No,
you have another one, then you ask it.
No, I mean for
Because
you.
it's just leading into kind of how my mind is
Yeah.
thinking at the moment. So, if a child is on Shell Shockers, that's a travel team, and it's expensive. That's my understanding. That it's and I'm looking at you. So if you're telling me no, I'm hearing you. It's okay. That's my thought, because anything with travel, right? We weren't baseball, we were wrestling. That kid's traveling, this is what I'm paying. That's just the way that it is, okay? lots of different levels. They're not paying, that parent is not paying the very same that I'm paying because my kid's here. It's just the way it is. Very similar, I'm thinking, with the baseball, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I'm just trying to get a good grasp on it. If you're playing for the Shell Shockers, you're paying money much more than you're going to be paying if you're playing in the East Lyme Little League, because East Lyme Little League is not charging thousands of dollars.
Okay, so I think the answer to that question, I think Mr. Parker is here. I think I would have him explain
Okay.
what the fees are and what parents get in return for that fee. So, Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Jerry. Again, Eric Parker on behalf of the Connecticut Shell Shockers. I think it might be helpful just to give a little explanation of how we end up in this situation of Shell Shockers teams playing under the Babe Ruth umbrella. And part of it is just that the youth sports landscape has changed. So I coach a 13U team for the Connecticut Shell Shockers. Todd Donovan runs the program. He really wanted to be here today, but unfortunately his work, he's a professional baseball scout. He's down in Florida scouting tonight. I have a letter from him that I'll distribute to you at the end, and I have an extra copy for the record. Well, I grew up in East Lyme. I played Little League. I played Babe Ruth all the way up until I went off to college. Today, Little League continues to be strong in East Lyme and in other communities. The many kids in elementary school, the vast majority of them, my understanding, go out for t-ball. Some decide it's not for them, but for the most part, many of those kids who are playing all soccer and basketball and baseball continue on through 12-year-old season in Little League. Someone's dad's the coach, someone else's dad's the assistant. Some of the kids who are maybe particularly talented or do well might be able to put East Lyme on their chest and go represent East Lyme Little League in an all-star tournament at the end of the summer. At the same time, there are travel programs like the Connecticut Shell Shockers who provide a higher level of sophistication with baseball. An indoor training facility, largely paid coaches, so it's not someone's dad. It's we have former professional players, many former college players who are coaching. I coach, but I'm not a manager because my kid doesn't play on the team I coach, but I don't have a high-level baseball experience, so I assist, right? And so a lot of the kids have sought for that higher level of baseball instruction. 13-year-old baseball is a separator, and it always has been, even from when I was younger. You go to the full-size baseball field, you have to be bigger, you have to be stronger, you have to be faster. That is when the studies show a lot of baseball players stop playing baseball. It gets harder. You need to have, put more time into it, more practice, have more resources. So that's a big cutoff. From 12-year-olds to 13-year-olds, a big change. That's also the change from Little League to Babe Ruth. When I was 13, I wanted to continue playing baseball. It's my favorite thing there is. If I win the Powerball, I'm just going to go find some way to coach baseball and stop working. But at 13, my option was to go play for East Lyme Babe Ruth. That's what existed. I played at 13, 14, 15, 16, 18. Today, there are all these other options. Travel programs, and Jerry mentioned some of them, the Crush and the Breakers and the Shell Shockers and many, many, many more. And what happened is, with the dwindling number of people who play at 13 and up, the best of those players, the most talented, sought out programs that had an indoor facility, that had professional coaches, that could give them a different level of instruction. And the people like me who it was 13, so now I went and played for East Lyme Babe Ruth, that population was lost. So for Steve to be able to put together a competitive team and a full roster, frankly, who cares if they're competitive if the kids are having fun, but to put together a full roster is not possible in today's environment. So that's where the partnership between an organization like the Shell Shockers and Babe Ruth makes sense. The Shell Shockers have access to the facility that Todd runs, the clubhouse over on Industrial Park Road, indoor training all year, professional coaches, clinics, big leaguers running clinics, the instruction that keeps the higher level players interested, but also allowing people who just want to come out for fun and basically play Babe Ruth to do that as well, because we're filling out the rest of those rosters. Instead of maybe having one team and then calling the coach and finding out the kids stop showing up for practice and there's no more teams, we have a robust program. So at that 13 plus, it's the Shell Shockers who are putting the bodies into Babe Ruth and East Lyme and keeping the program going and keeping the kids home. We have kids from other towns, but the team that I coach is 80% East Lyme kids, and maybe even higher. I'm just guessing, but it's largely the kids who just went and had the great run in Little League a couple years ago. I'm coaching them now. They're really good, by the way. But that's who it is. It's East Lyme kids, and they're filling out those rosters. if the Shell Shockers collaboration with East Lyme Babe Ruth didn't exist, many of those kids are talented to a level where they would want that higher baseball instruction, higher level of competition, higher level of coaching, year-round training if they want it. They wouldn't be at East Lyme Babe Ruth. They would be looking for that somewhere else. So we found a way to have the best of both worlds, and we felt we needed to be here tonight to address the false narratives that somehow the Shell Shockers are up to no good. And it's not the case. It's helping to bolster those older levels. At the younger levels, and I have some of our welcome to the team, or we're glad you're on the team letters. First page of the letter at all of our levels, particularly for the youth, if you play Little League comes first. And Jerry's right. There are some programs that say, if you play Little League, I don't care if you have a Little League game, you come to our practice or you're cut. Like, that's the level of cut there. I mean, these are 10-year-olds. It's mind-blowing. Todd is very clear with all of the coaches. Little League comes first. As long as the Little League season's going, you make sure that the kids are at their Little League practices, at their Little League games. We're very careful with pitch counts. As you know, with kids' arms being fragile, we're not going to throw a kid on a Saturday so he can't pitch in his Little League game on Monday night. We're very thoughtful and mindful about that because we know that during that Little League season, the Little League season comes first. But for those kids who are, like my son, I forced him to play other sports for a bunch of years, and now he just plays baseball year-round. He wanted that higher level instruction. He wanted winter workouts. He wanted professional coaches who could talk to him at a higher level than I could, even having been around the game my whole life. There's lots of kids like that. And so by having the mixture of the two together, we found that it's been a great partnership. And there apparently are some people who have gone and said things that just aren't reality. That there's some kind of untoward action between or collaboration between Babe Ruth and the Shell Shockers, and it's just not the case. We're filling out their rosters, we're giving their kids a chance to play, and we're getting an opportunity to play in the beautiful fields here in East Lyme, play in front of our home crowds, and have our East Lyme kids playing on those teams. And it's been a huge success from our perspective. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
So I had a very successful Little League experience with my son, my youngest son. We went to states, first time since 1980, and then the next year, we didn't have enough kids for the 13U level. So I happen to know one of the coaches from Mystic, and they had a similar situation. So I reached out to Steve and I said, can we put a Babe Ruth team together? So we put the Babe Ruth team together. We dug up the old Warriors name because we didn't want to make Mystic kids wear East Lyme gear and be more communal. When I was a kid, there was Southeast All-Stars. Like, if you got to that next level of Babe Ruth, you got to play in Southeast All-Stars. I got to play in the New England tournament. It was great. But what we're doing is we're trying to provide this. I never took a dime. This is my passion. This is what keeps me going. I'm a school teacher, 26 years, successful. And the thing that is like, I reached out. And then part of the problem is when you're volunteers, you get tired, you get burned out. I was the president of East Lyme Little League during COVID. Like, that wasn't fun, okay? So you start to look for, how can I hand this off to somebody? How can we do this? And all the dads that did Warriors that started it up, Mr. Tukey and Mr. Dreyfus before me, and then I came in, we're always looking for that. If we could win the lotto, we would buy a facility. We would put a place for East Lyme kids and others who want to be part of that type of community to hit and get that, so that we don't lose it. We've watched travel teams desecrate other local leagues. I won't mention by names, but we've seen the numbers. These programs that were so successful just lose out to travel ball because parents are like, nope, we're going to go elite status, and the price between Shell Shockers and these other leagues and other things is so less. It's not even comparable. And we've provided scholarships. Share it. I ran a team, and the register for Babe Ruth was what, 185 per player, 175.
When you did it, it was 175.
175 per player. So we build that out, and this is me just doing it as a dad trying to help out until finally we had the infrastructure. But I held a tryout. I had kids come down and try out. I said, get word of mouth, advertise, like whatever. We're going to be part of East Lyme Babe Ruth, but we're going to call ourselves the Warriors. And we had Mystic kids show up. We had Stonington kids hear about it, want to be a part of it. I had one player from Ledyard who was a phenomenal player, we went into the state tournament playing Waterford, and he would have been my ace pitcher, but because he was playing in a Little League state tournament for this junior league, which East Lyme did not have at the time, I said, no, you need to pitch for your community team, not mine. Like, that's what we do, and Todd asked me to be a part of it, and I told him, I said, the day this becomes more important than Little League is the day I'm out. And so we are about pushing the community. One league that we forgot to mention in all this, the Miracle League. We're very much involved, and our players go down, they volunteer and coach. My niece is a part of that. So every Sunday I see these kids from the community, local, some coming from out of town, and they're down at the Miracle League helping kids who just want to kick a ball or hit off a tee and run around Dave Putnam's little Miracle League, and it's phenomenal to see this outpouring. So I'll take anybody on who wants to sit there and badmouth this organization, badmouth Babe Ruth. There is enough fields for everybody. I've seen it. I've been doing this for a long time. And so for people to make drama where there doesn't need to be over these issues, seems to me they don't have the kids' best interests in mind. And there's some ego piece to this that I just don't understand. Because those of us involved, we're just giving back. Because we remember how fun it was when we played. I played with old Lyme kids. So anyways, that's just kind of my story and all that stuff. So
Can I have a couple
Yeah.
of questions? So, just from my understanding, so for Little League, what's the age range of Little League players?
So up until this year, it was all the way, you could go from, a kid could be 4 years old, Little League age. Now there's an actual calendar. Anybody born.
Okay, just roughly.
Yeah,
so
so 4 years old
to
for T-ball till majors, which is 12. This year,
yeah.
East Lyme brought in junior senior league, which allows kids, I think, to play up to about 15. Other towns have had it in the area, and we've had kids on our Babe Ruth team, on our Shell Shocker team, also play in their local towns, Little League junior seniors. I think Ledyard, Stonington, and Groton all have one.
And what's the age range of Babe Ruth players?
It goes 13 to 18.
13 to 18. So they're,
And what's Shell Shocker's age?
We
yeah.
have kids as young as 8, and as right now, because we're as the kids get older, we keep adding higher level teams. I think 15 is our oldest right now. Maybe 16. We might have a 16.
So there's a little bit of overlap between Little League and Babe Ruth on the 12 to 15, 12 to 15 range. There's some overlap. 4 to 12, it's just Little League, right? There is no Shell Shocker Babe Ruth option for kids under 12.
There are Shell Shockers.
Oh, there's
teams.
8. You have 8 years old.
Yeah, we have Shell Shocker teams, but that's where we tell the parents Little League is your priority. And then we try to set up the schedule so that it doesn't conflict with any Little League games.
So I guess for me the crux of it is if I have a kid that wants to, let's say I got a 8-year-old, 9-year-old boy, girl, doesn't matter, and he or she wants to play some baseball, and I'm really not up for the whole full route with the Shell Shockers, but I want to do something for my child, and I got a few $100 I can put towards it. Is there a place in Babe Ruth for that child, or do they have to go the full route with Shell Shockers and come up with a couple $1,000
But age, you need.
Well, no.
So,
or 15?
Yeah.
sorry about that,
Babe Ruth
Steve
is
Listertra.
13.
Yes, there is a Babe Ruth option. We don't have that as of today, or we haven't had in the past. It's called Cal Ripken.
But
Cal
what's
Rip-
right now? I just want to know today.
No, there is no-
I think the age in your example was
I'm
confusing.
wrong. Let's say I got a
15-year-old.
13-year-old. I got a 13-year-old.
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 A
And
13-year-old.
but I don't want to do the full route with
That's the
Shell
whole-
Shockers. Can I put in whatever a fee is just to play Babe Ruth, and is that less than what I'd have to pay to be, go to the facility and get the training?
Yes, you could have a child play under the Babe Ruth charter who is just playing Babe Ruth,
And pays
But-
less money
But
than,
effectively, they're going to be on a Shell Shockers team because that's where most of the players come
Okay.
from. The name on their shirt is going to say
Yeah, it's
Shell
gonna say
Shockers.
Shell
Yes,
Shockers.
Mr. Cunningham, yes, that is
but,
available.
but they're getting the benefit of using fields that are being reserved for a 501c3.
Correct.
Are they paying an amount that's less than those participants that are going the full route with the
Yes.
training and the coaches and all, the full Shell Shocker route?
Correct, because a lot of the additional cost would be the indoor training facility, having, supplementing paid instruction year-round, things like that. So that obviously wouldn't apply to a Babe Ruth person. So they'd be paying the money to be a Babe Ruth player.
So if they, wait, just a quick question. If they're playing, I guess this is where I'm getting confused, the baseball for Babe Ruth, right?
Right.
Then they do not have access to the, like, professional coaches and the indoor stuff and all that other stuff, or not?
Well, the professional coaches is different because they're
you
just
know
the
what I
coaches
mean,
of the
whatever,
team.
the
But so
elite.
for the team that I'm coaching right now, we started our winter workouts on I think whatever the Sunday was, January 3rd, and we went twice a week from January 3rd until the weather turned warm in the indoor facility. Just a Babe Ruth participant wouldn't have access to that because part of the fees charged by Shell Shockers is to support that indoor facility and the coaches who run those workouts. As soon as we get to outside, that's when the Babe Ruth players would be part of the squad.
And they play under
The Shell Shockers name, yeah,
Their name.
and coached by the Shell Shockers coaches along with the Shell Shockers kids.
But there's a subset, there's some kids that get to pay a lesser amount to just be Babe Ruth, and they get the benefit of the 501c3
Yes.
status. So they don't have to pay for the field use.
Correct.
And the parents of those kids that are paying whatever it is, 2, 3, whatever, how much ever it is to be on Babe Ruth, they get the benefit of the 501c3 status of Babe Ruth by getting to pay substantially less than someone that's doing the full travel team.
Correct, and without the collaboration of the two organizations, they almost certainly wouldn't have a roster.
They wouldn't have a place.
They wouldn't have a place to play at that level because there wouldn't be enough kids to fill out that roster because once you get to that 13 plus and it starts being a higher level of baseball,
Yeah.
the kids who tend to continue on that path are going to be looking primarily for an option like what the Shell Shockers offer. Whether that's right or wrong can be debated another time, but that's the reality. And so if they're looking for that option, the kids who are looking for what you're talking about are a minority, just the way
I understand.
sports have gone. They would have a couple of kids and they wouldn't have enough to field the team.
So out of the kids you have on, I forgot how many Shell Shockers say, how many would be just Babe Ruth and not Shell Shocker, say? I know they play under the same emblem or whatever, banner.
I think it, yeah, we don't know. I think it varies because it depends on the team and who signs up. And the vast majority of them are in for the full Shell Shocker experience, but I don't know the numbers.
Okay.
And that part of that is the Shell Shocker fees compared to other travel programs. It depends on the team and some at different levels. There's, I coach one 13U team, there's another 13U team. Some travel for tournaments, some don't. So I can't give you an exact cost, but in the world of travel baseball, the Shell Shockers are among the most affordable options because while the entity, and as someone asked earlier, the entity is not a 501c3, it is a for-profit entity for IRS purposes. But if you told Todd that it was a for-profit enterprise, he would laugh at you. It is not a for-profit in the sense that he's making a profit. It just does not have the tax designation, which is, a discussion
what
that he has to
counts,
have.
is the tax
No, I
rate.
understand.
In our
but
world,
Yeah.
I'm
That makes a
not
difference.
suggesting otherwise. I'm just saying.
And how much, you said it's about $175 for Babe Ruth. How much is it for the Shell Shockers to play? Anybody have an idea?
Well, it depends on.
$1,500 or?
Yeah, I think that it starts with probably like the $600-700 range, and then just guessing, and it goes up to probably the older kids who are going to travel to out-of-state tournaments. It's probably like $2,500.
Is that for the whole season, or is that for just
That's for the whole season.
So that's for the travel team portion of it.
Yes, that's the travel team portion, and that's like I said. There's different teams at different levels because some parents are saying, my kid likes playing baseball, but they're not trying to go to, the team I coached last year went to Delaware. This year we're going to Maine. So that's a different level of investment that if the parents and the kids are into it and they're good enough and they want to go see national competition, it does cost a little bit more to run that.
So what's the rub with Little League? Help us understand why this has even come to our attention and why there seems to be tension between the Little League organization and the Babe Ruth organization. What do we know? I want to understand it. Is there something that we're missing here?
Listen, somebody knows. We know everybody in this room.
So
Please.
I think that has to be directed to Little League. I think we've tried very hard to be good partners with Little League, and I think that we think it's been a big success that the kids have gone out there. I mean, we've seen what the Little League All-Star teams did. That was coexisting with the Shell Shockers.
Do you compete for team? I mean,
No.
Are you trying to get on the same fields at the same time, and if one can bounce the other off?
I mean, do you want to talk about
Yeah,
that? Sure.
Jerry.
So I guess in terms of the fields, I would say, there's been a working arrangement in the town for years, that Little League plays on these days, travel plays on these days, T-ball plays on that day, and these fields, things like that. I would say this year, Little League made several changes to their requests for fields that directly impact Shell Shockers' ability to use those fields. Little League has scheduled a number of different activities on weekends that were traditionally available. Little League, up to this point has been, or for the last many years, has been, Monday through Friday kind of a deal, and weekends were more travel. That's changed this year, so that, Little League is now playing things on weekends, and they've shifted some fields around, and I think the result of that, and we talked about Joey DiFilippi earlier. I mean, that complicates his job. He's working his best to kind of find these spaces, but it's increasingly complex. And in terms of Babe Ruth, they use Vets Field or the big field at Bridebrook or what have you. But the fact that Little League has added this junior-senior full-size baseball field component to the Little League menu has an impact on Shell Shockers' ability to be on those fields. That's an absolute reality that is kind of happening right now for essentially the first time.
Okay.
So that's the pressure point, it
Right.
sounds like.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Okay, I
That's
think we
festering.
figured it out, a little bit.
I'm sure there's more to it.
There's more to it, but.
I do have this
He's got
letter
a
from
letter.
Todd. Do you mind if I?
Yes,
Oh, sure.
please do.
And who is
Yeah.
this from?
Okay, so I'm going to take the opportunity.
Who's the letter
though,
from?
and just
From Eric Parker?
No,
This is
Todd.
from you? This
Todd
is from Don.
Donovan.
And which is he affiliated
Shell
with?
Shockers.
So,
I need one too. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy. Oh, that's good. Thank you so much.
before we address this, could I just ask a question or no?
We can make
yeah,
this part of the
just
record.
make sure we don't know all our addresses, and Sandy's gonna be asking our addresses.
All right,
So-
so just really quickly before we go through that.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you guys are going to speak again, we need you to say your address for the secretary that is online doing
Yes.
things.
So maybe we can just
please.
go through everybody, identify.
Okay,
the-
She's
so,
texting me
yeah.
saying what our address is, so
Erica, yeah.
I need addresses for the record.
So Connecticut Shell Shockers, 36 Industrial Park Road.
And-
Well, I don't live in town, so
Okay,
I'm here on behalf of the Shell Shockers, so that's
Okay.
my only in-town address.
That's
all
fine.
right.
Steve LaCitra, 62 Spring Glen Road, Niantic.
Perfect.
I had Mrs. Hardy as a history teacher, so I knew to say my address in the beginning, but I'll say it again, 33 Corey Lane.
33 Corey Lane. And that's Joel Ferrier, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna Stefanski, 650 Montauk Avenue, New London.
Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
Thank you.
So just one question before we kind of get into this, if you don't mind. So when you're talking about dibs on fields, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting. That's what I'm feeling from some of the things that you've said. Maybe this is what's kind of coming up where, hey, hold on a second, we've been doing this, history, this is what we've been doing, best practice and past practice is something that's totally different, okay? We may all need to work together to create another type of system that looks differently than historically, okay, in order for everyone to function and, play on the field. And at the end of the day, the kids play, right? Because that's really what it's about, right? I'm a mom too, and we
So-
played a lot of sports,
Yep.
so.
I guess I would respond to that, and I would say that from Little League, I'm not aware that Little League hasn't gotten anything that they've asked for. We basically, as we're talking about priorities, Little League gets, kind of high priority, and we've given them that. And Shell Shockers, I have not heard one comment from the Shell Shockers that we're not getting enough access to the fields. I think it's more difficult. It's just a little more complicated. But Shell Shockers are working within the confines of what's available, and they're making it work. And in my estimation, that hats off to them for being flexible in what they're doing and functioning in an environment that's maybe increasingly difficult for them.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Candace, you know so much more about, I don't know anything about travel or anything, but
Well,
you
yeah,
really-
I mean, not with the baseball. I mean, Lincoln stopped
your
at a
son
certain
and
age,
with-
but they were
yeah.
out in T-ball.
So it's good to have a resident expert.
I would just like to say that I don't know anything about youth sports. This 12U and AAU, all these things that seem to make sense to you seem very esoteric to me. So I'm trying to really grasp this, and it is very difficult. I think it's grown over a number of years organically, and as my counterpart said, best practices, not necessarily past practices. I think that's really great. The way I see it is you have a 501c3, and then you have an entity that's generating revenue, and then you have public resources all kind of coming to a head under an umbrella. When someone raises the specter of impropriety, when someone asks questions, it is extremely difficult to dispel that for someone who is not of this ecosystem. And I've sat and I've listened to this, and we have 5 people kind of at the podium spinning around like Marx Brothers. There has to be a better way to do this, because the numbers that we're looking at here, even in the best case scenario, this is not insignificant money. We're talking about people losing their jobs over budget cuts. Like, this could be someone's job. So this does have consequences. This does have material repercussions, and I think we can do better. I don't have the answer, but hopefully that's something Parks and Rec can do, because this is a big mess. I don't know how the other members of the commission feel about, or the board feel, but this is very difficult to understand, and I think it's going to be very difficult to straighten out. Oh, we got another person coming up.
Come on up. You can come
Yeah,
up.
please, just identify yourself.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm Dr. Benjamin Armstrong. I live at 12 Naomi Lane. I'm in the Parks and Rec Commission. I'm also on the board of the Little League for the last 3 years as the player agent, so I help enroll players onto the teams in Little League. Assign the players to all the teams and also run the tryouts. And for the older divisions, like the majors and minors, like the 8 to 12-year-olds who have tryouts and drafts for their teams. And I'm also part of the Shell Shockers organization since it started, and my sons play on both sides. I think, when it comes to the money, the for-profit, I hope that people aren't under the illusion that all not-for-profits are like these angelic organizations. Not-for-profits, not necessarily Little League, but not-for-profits have, board members that get paid. They have these, free events where people go get free things. It's not-for-profit. Or one not-for-profit donates money to the other not-for-profit, which I don't really understand. That being said, Shell Shockers is for-profit, but, if you take away, if you pay $1,500 to be a Shell Shocker at 12 years old for the year, and then you're getting a uniform, a helmet, access to the indoor facility from, at least twice a week from January through April, and then really Todd would let you get in there any other time if it's not reserved for something else. Then that also covers umpires for every game. Like my son's 12-year-old games, there's 2 games every weekend for at least 6 weeks that it's $160 every weekend for the umpire fees for each team. Then, field rental fees, which the Shell Shockers are being charged at the regular rate for, even though almost all the members are paying taxes in the town, right? Like my son, I'm a taxpayer, so I don't think giving Shell Shockers a discount or access to the fields, they're not getting any discount right now anyway, but I don't think Little League should have the exclusive access necessarily to getting a break on fees for the fields when most of the people are paying taxes to the town anyway. But anyway, the profit, if there has been any profit for Shell Shockers, is probably negative to negligible because, you know, it costs a lot of money to pay to keep the clubhouse open, pay for the lights, insurance, everything else. So, you know, mostly I think it's a labor of love for Todd, who grew up in this town and, you know, has always come back to this town even when he was traveling, playing AAA baseball all over the country. And, you know, I think mostly he's, you know, doing this as a labor of love, you know, to help his kids who are, you know, are in the organization, but also all the other kids in town. You know, and I think, like I've said to my wife, you know, I think there's a lot of people that will badmouth him or, you know, try to make this a headache for him with these fields and stuff. But if one of their kids was 17 in 6 years and had an opportunity to go play baseball at like UConn or UVA or something, and, you know, he knew a scout or a coach at one of those places, I don't think he would hesitate to put in a good word for that kid if he thought they belonged to play there. So, like, I mean, I think in the end, he's got the kid's best interest at heart. And I think, I mean, I don't know if he would be willing or want to share his, you know, financial stuff or anything like that, but the whole for-profit, I really don't think there's much profit in what he's doing. So, sorry, I get nervous talking.
Thank you, Ben.
No,
You did
no,
a great
It's
job.
fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, we're trying to understand, and, you know, there's been a narrative that's been advanced, and we've listened to that, and we wanted to give the other side an opportunity to explain their side of it. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's a struggle for some of us, less so for others. You know, Candace is in the sports world. I'm not.
I have a relatability.
Jason and I know
I
more
do not
about
know your world, but I
A
do have
sharp rather
relatability.
than AU, you know, or A flat. But
My son played Babe Ruth, he played Little League, he did, yeah, all
My
that.
son did all
we
that.
don't know
Yeah,
about Tony.
I mean-
Tony, what's going on?
No, it's changed a lot since my son
Yeah.
played, I can say, because when you said before, someone I think before said you're having trouble fielding a Babe Ruth team, I mean, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
I
think
guess
that's-
yeah, because all these other options that are now available,
Well,
which
lacrosse.
weren't available, say, 20 years ago.
There's
when-
competition.
Mr. Cunningham, can I make just one more
Yes,
comment?
please do.
I think you said about the narrative that's being brought forward. I actually, and you know, Mr. Diebel's concerned saying it was a mess. I actually don't think it is. We don't fight over players. We don't fight over fields. I'm not aware of a conflict over a field. There is that spreadsheet that the attorney put together that you looked at the beginning of today, and maybe you have concerns about that. I don't believe it's about scheduling. I don't believe it's about keeping kids from participating in programs. I think there's some sort of personal bad feelings. Someone doesn't like someone, and that's led to this narrative. I don't believe there's anything to it. I think if we were here telling you we're fighting to get those kids on a field, we had to cancel a game because we couldn't get out there. It's not happening. The fields, when we need practice and we want to play, we're getting out there. And like Jerry said, when the Little League needs practice time on the bigger fields, they get out there. I don't think it's an issue, except for some people who are pushing this narrative that the Shell Shockers are the bad guys and are up to no good, which is why I wanted to just come make the point. Without the Shell Shockers players, there is no East Lyme Babe Ruth, almost certainly. And those kids are still going to play baseball. They're just going to go out of town and do it somewhere else. And so I think that's what is the important thing to understand, is that it may say Shell Shockers on our chest, but we're still making East Lyme proud and doing it with East Lyme kids. And there is no conflict of which we're aware, except for a couple of people who really, really don't like us for some reason. So that's my understanding of it. I hope that helps.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for that.
Thanks.
I want
And
to
I-
say one thing
I'd like to hear
before.
from- oh,
Okay,
go ahead.
just
No, no.
one small thing, just because it kind of stood out to me, and it might stand out to others, and it might be some of the reason of what is happening, right? And I think all conversation is good conversation, okay? And it's a good thing that everybody's here, and this is what we should be doing. But one of the things that did make my eyebrow go up, number one, was the MOUs and having a solidified, if somebody's giving a gift, please make sure that everybody is aware of that gift and that we are not tied and bound, right, to you or any entity that has given something. That's just not quid pro quo. Second thing was the comment about the nonprofit and other entities that are for profit and or not, but underneath them. So they're under the blanket of the nonprofit. I don't know how, if that is the right practice to be utilizing or not. And I'm going to say it, okay?
I'm gonna
Because I feel
try
like
to
it
speak
might
to
be
that.
the elephant in the room. Leave it to me to bring it out.
No, we want to bring it up.
But I think that might be some of that, because as soon as he's, the gentleman behind the Babe Ruth here, Steve, right? I think, yes? Mentioned it, I thought to myself, I don't know about that. That definitely could be the crux of the issue. And yes, so this in front of us, I don't know how many have it. There's a number on here of $105,000. So that's maybe going to Mr. Deagle where he says this is a mess, because it kind of can be looked at as a mess. So I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
I'm Rob Tukey.
Hi, Rob.
Too close to the microphone there. 111 Sleepy Hollow Road. I'm the commissioner, chairman of the board of the Parks and Rec Commission. I want to try to hit this from, I'm not going to talk about shell shockers. I don't have anything to do with the shell shockers. I'm not going to talk about, what the intentions of are the shell shock. I think what's being missed here is the evolution of youth sports in terms of baseball. So the board, some have no B flats and B sharps in the Marx Brothers. Okay, I hope I'm not going to be a Marx Brother here.
Too many to be the Marx Brothers. There's only 3 of them.
Yeah.
There's like 7 of you guys.
Yeah. Well, I'm my own person here, and I'm not up here bumbling around and being a Marx Brother. I'm trying to explain something to this board so they understand what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am a bit older than all these guys, and I too played when maybe some of you guys played, and understood that you went from Little League to Babe Ruth, you went to your high school team, hopefully you went to a college team, and that's how it was. There were no travel programs back then. That's just what you did. If you were really good, you played Legion, okay? So that's what you did way back when. What's happened recently is parents want their kids to really do well, okay? There's a need that's been filled. These travel teams have shown up and said, hey, I can make your kid better than the volunteer coach at Little League. You can come and you can get a nice shiny uniform. You get a bat bag. We've seen all the kids in the tournaments coming when we're going to the restaurants, and the kids are coming in and they look like pros. I mean, they're outfitted like pros. That's the travel kids, okay? And that's just what it's kind of turned into. All right. But what it used to be was you went to Little League, you played for the volunteer coach. If you were good enough, you made the all-star team. All right. And then you played in the all-star tournament, and it was great. And then you went on to Babe Ruth. I'm going to do a when I played. We had a 13-year-old team that they just segregated, so all the little guys and the big guys kind of, you wouldn't get taken advantage of by the 15s, because the 15s would kill the 13s. But Babe Ruth has been decimated, and I'm going to give you the history that I have, all right? So when I was the president of East Lyme Little League, we realized that kids were leaving. They were going to travel teams, and they weren't qualifying for the Little League tournament, because they were going and playing on their travel teams on the weekends. They were skipping some games, and we had a rule that you had to play 60% of the games to be able to qualify to be an all-star. And so what was happening was these kids were having to choose at 10, 11, 12, do I want to play with my friends on Little League, or do I want to go and play on this travel team because I'm really good? And so you were losing those kids. And the really good ones were going to play on the travel teams, and guess what? There's a secret. Some of those kids wouldn't even get charged to play on those travel teams, because the travel teams want the really good kids. It's just like you see now on colleges and pro, right? So what happens is you've got these town, and East Lyme Little League has stayed strong. they've been able to figure it out. But one of the reasons they were able to figure it out is because you opened it up a little bit and you said, okay, we're going to allow kids to kind of do both. And the Warriors, you've heard about the Warriors, it started as an 11-year-old team that I started to say, all right, we're going to go and we're going to play like 12 travel type games. We're going to go and enter into a tournament so these kids could go and play in these tournaments, but we wouldn't lose them to the travel teams. All right. And then, and that continued down in Little League. And then when I left, Warriors was over by Little League. All right. So when I took my kid, because I coached my kid all the way through, volunteer, didn't have a travel program, didn't start a travel program. We went and we took the kids to the Babe Ruth, and we said, okay, now it's time to play Babe Ruth. But guess what? Babe Ruth, they weren't fielding teams. So what the Babe Ruth organization did, they got smart. They said, we're going to die unless we change the way we do things, because kids aren't going to come to us. They opened it up and they allowed, and what they called it back when I did it, when my kid was 13, they called it an extreme team. So you could put a team together, play as East Lyme Babe Ruth. So the pictures of my kid at 13, Babe Ruth patch, okay, East Lyme on his chest, but we were kind of playing in these elite leagues. We weren't playing with the rest of the Babe Ruth kids because Babe Ruth allowed that, all right? We didn't charge them extra. No one got paid. We were all volunteer coaches. But when we went to tournaments, the kids had to pay for those tournaments. So there was no, we weren't registered as a nonprofit. We weren't anything. We were a Babe Ruth team, volunteer coaches, just like we were in Little League, but we had this extreme team. That's how Babe Ruth survived. And that's my thought, is the only way that they survived, because they would be gone if they didn't do that. And that's what Babe Ruth figured it, Babe Ruth International or whatever it is, figured it out, that we've got to do something or all these kids are gonna leave for travel and Babe Ruth will be dead. So I think that's what Steve's dealing with in trying to keep it going, okay? But it's a big difference, what these Babe Ruth teams are doing. And I don't know with the Shell Shockers how it works, okay? If Shell Shockers can play under Babe Ruth as a for-profit, not just, a bunch of dads, qualifying as Babe Ruth coaches and doing it. But that seems to be what's going on. And I wanted to give that history to you guys so you could see what's going on. Because if Babe Ruth didn't do it, they were dead. And it was just going to be Little League and then travel. Okay? So I didn't know if that was coming through to you guys from the presentation. And I wanted to kind of hit it a little differently than, I'm not here to talk for the Shell Shockers. I don't have anything to do with the Shell Shockers. By the time I was done with Warriors, Shell Shockers weren't around. Warriors was simply a Little League team, bunch of Little League kids that played in a couple extra games to feel like they were a travel team, and we didn't lose them. Okay? And then, when I left, Warriors was left to the guys down in Little League who kept it going. All right? That would be Joel or whoever kind of kept it going. And then, Joel's idea, whatever he named his team for Babe Ruth, it was the same thing as this extreme team, I think.
Yes, exactly.
It was an extreme team. It wasn't a Shell Shocker team. It wasn't a travel team. It was just a Babe Ruth team that happened to have the really good hand-picked kids. All right, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If Babe Ruth was going to die, you would lose the 13 to 18-year-old set?
Yeah.
Isn't that when they play in high school?
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so let me hit that. So high school is a different level of competition, okay, than, so you've got high school freshman, JV, varsity. Some of these kids, 18-year-olds playing for the East Lyme team, Aiden Cochran's throwing 93 miles an hour. Okay, that is an elite pro level situation. Babe Ruth kids can't compete with that. So it's totally different. High school's just a different subset on our Venn diagram.
If you can play high school, you can't play in other leagues.
No.
What's that?
Yeah.
If they play in high school, they can't play in other leagues.
During high school season, you cannot play.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't play in
yeah.
anything
So,
Other than high school.
so you're shut off. So my son, he went that extreme thing for 13, and then he went to the Connecticut Crush. It was a travel team, off. He's doing his own thing, but he could only do that after he finished his high school his high school season. Then he played into the summer. So they didn't have a spring team. These travel teams don't have spring teams.
And just so
Okay.
you know, the high school team has very few players too. I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
it's
it's
very.
the pick
best
of the whole
best
high school, the best of the best. So they're the
Yeah.
elites. They're the ones with some of them going to college.
Yeah.
And then you go down to, again, with these travel teams, they'll take your money. So you can go pay for your kid to get a nice shiny uniform, but there's very few kids that trickle down to just the regular Babe Ruth like we used to play.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
back when I used to play, we had 1 million Babe Ruth teams. It was super competitive back when I used to
Yeah.
play. All right, but it's gone. It's not like that anymore. And frankly, we're lucky that Little League that's next. Little League is next, and it's by doing these things like opening it up a little bit so these kids can kind of do both, that you don't just decimate Little League, because that's next.
So
I think I understand that there's variables. There's age and then there's ability.
Yep.
And depending on where a player is within those two parameters, there needs to be different niches almost.
Yep.
In some kind of ecosystem that they have to fill in. Like, you're not old enough for this, but you're good enough for that. You're not good enough for that, but you're old enough for that. And that's why we have proliferation of all these organically grown entities.
I think that's a good way to put it. And the idea is so what Babe Ruth figured it out, like, oh man, we're dying. Because, like Eric said, when you hit 13 and you go to that big field, it's kind of funny to watch these kids. They were dominating in Little League and they hit the ball and it doesn't go anywhere, and they're like, what's going on? It's because they're not strong enough yet, and it's just they have to get there. So that's when a lot of kids just say, forget it. I'm not going to stick with it. And so traditionally, Babe Ruth would lose a lot of kids anyway. All right, put that on top of the kids going to these travel teams, getting really recruited. I mean, I've been through this. The kids get, or his friends going to this travel team, so he's going, and Babe Ruth has less and less. And so what happened was, the real life example was, the quality of the teams that Babe Ruth was putting out there was turning these better kids away. They're saying, I don't want to play with this competition. It sounds bad, but it's not fun for me. So that's why I think Babe Ruth opened it up and said, okay, come in, bring these better kids in, and let's get our league going again. Can't speak to how it works with for-profit travel teams. I can only speak to, it was certainly open for me to, volunteer and, do that with my kids. And so it's just, the travel teams have gotten more and more since then. That was years ago.
There's been high school.
you need to go up to the podium.
We'll get you on the record.
Sorry, and to interject his point to
You
your
need your
question.
name again. Sorry.
Joel Ferrier, 33 Corey Lane,
Thank
Niantic.
you.
There have been kids who have been cut from East Line baseball at the freshman or lower levels that then get absorbed by Babe Ruth because then they have a home to go to. And I will give Jack Biggs credit. We reach out, hey, you got any kids that still want to play baseball but just not at that level? And he's been good about giving us those names, and then we can, hey, there's a place for you. Because some kids just love the game, and they don't care where they're playing it.
So Rob Tukey again, 111 Sleepy Hollow Road. So when you're talking about youth coaches and you're seeing that, and you're seeing some kids who really like baseball but they're not so good, okay, Babe Ruth is a place for them to play and continue.
Yeah.
And so it's important. It's an important thing to survive.
Yeah.
And it's nationwide, but I fear that it is crumbling. So
Understood.
I hope that sheds some light on.
It does.
No, it's-
but it,
Yeah,
doesn't,
no, it
it
does.
also discounts the fact that these are public facilities, though, and there's some kind of quasi-public-private partnership, and these things kind of evolve when a niche opens up. And I think it just falls to you guys to figure out how to manage this. And it sounds like you have a very kind of expansive, flexible.
So
way
we've got.
of
So I'm
doing
gonna answer that a little bit because so it's changing yearly. Okay, it's changing fast. Okay, and yeah, we need to figure that out, because this wasn't a problem 10 years ago. You know, the old way of doing things, it was easy. You know, Babe Ruth had the fields, and then so, like, for example, when I did it, same issue, same kids, they played Babe Ruth fees to play Babe Ruth, but they were kind of a hand-picked Babe Ruth team. Wasn't a travel team. Okay, still good. And now what I'm hearing, and I want to make this plain to you guys. I'm not here to talk about how good or bad this organization is. That's not why I'm here. But what I'm hearing is what they're saying is, we're kind of jumping in to fill the breach here, or we're going to lose this for these kids too. All right. So Jerry and I have talked about, hey, we've got to be flexible, and we've got to figure out how this stuff works. Okay. But we need to be able to respond to allegations or whatever's happening that we can actually, that are being told to us, okay, through proper channels, not trying to figure it out for ourselves, so we can deal with it.
Correct.
And that's part of this problem. That's why I'm here tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's why we had it in an open session tonight, so everybody could be on board to hear what's being discussed and being said, so we can all be part of the discussion. And
Yeah,
I appreciate you
but-
being here, Rob, to
But I'm
explain.
here to respond to stuff that I'm kind of just hearing. I'm not hearing what the allegations are, and that's frustrating.
I think that the allegations and the narrative is that, we've got this problem, that we've identified it. You got a 501c3, and you have a for-profit, and there's a boundary between the two. And how do we adjust that? How do we account for the fact that the Babe Ruth organization is providing a service to a segment of the young men and women that want to, boys and girls that want to be part of baseball? They are providing that niche for them. But, is the town losing out something on revenue that it ought to be getting because it is a for-profit? And how do we adjust that? How do we make it fair to the town? How do we make it fair to the shell shockers and to everybody that's a stakeholder in this endeavor?
So Dan, I'll let you, I can respond to what you just said, Dan.
Go ahead, and then I'll speak.
Okay, so the answer to that question, as I mentioned before, in one of the slides, each of these leagues operates in a different way, and they set the criteria. Babe Ruth is, that organization for that group of people that age playing baseball, that provides the widest access, that provides it at the least available cost, that kind of serves the community best. And in that way, Parks and Rec identifies Babe Ruth as that organization that kind of qualifies as, the people that we don't charge fees. These fine folks from Babe Ruth, I don't tell them who to allow or who not to allow, or how to register or how not to register, or what color your uniforms are, or how many umpires you have. We don't get into that. If Babe Ruth, this organization that provides that widest opportunity in the community, says that this is the way we operate, we say, okay, it's up to them to police, their own organization. It's up to youth soccer to police their own organization. It's up to all of these leagues to, they set the rules and they police those rules. When Babe Ruth comes to us, we respond to Babe Ruth as that community league. When youth football comes to us, we respond to youth football as that community league. So that's, we recognize, as Mr. Tukey said, this environment is changing rapidly. It's like this snowball. It's changing faster and faster and faster. And I think the commission recognizes that. And I've given the last slide that you have in front of you for me talks about 4 different things that the commission is now involved with. That's trying to modify best practices to account for this changing environment. This isn't, and the bottom line is, we're trying, again, to foster, empower, allow, to facilitate, support. Those are things that we're trying to do with these folks. So we're coming at it in this cooperative type situation. We're not trying to steamroll people. We're trying to find ways to be reasonable about it, to allow these community organizations to operate in a way that they can do the most community good. So that's where we are. That's what the commission is wrestling with. And we are continuing to modify what we're doing so we can do the best job of that we can. And I think, is there frustration that, things as they exist today, are they the same that's going to be in a month or 2 months? No. And we're going to do our best to keep up with that. And I think the commission legitimately is doing that. So, Ann, and I apologize for putting you on hold there.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm glad you said that. So I guess, as Dan said, we are facing huge budget issues. So I guess what I would want to see from the Park and Rec is a meeting where you sit down and you say, okay, this is a nonprofit. This is what they will be charged or not charged. This is a profit. This is what they will be charged. This is this team. This is what they will charge. And you have like a chart, a guide, and it's set basically in stone. And then, if you go back in 6 months and you change it again, you change it then. But right now,
Exactly.
it just seems like it's kind of,
Well,
hang
and
on
we,
one second.
okay.
It just seems like it's willy-nilly. And
Okay.
I would just like to see like a chart saying, okay, this is what this is what that is. And I think it's up to your discretion, if I'm not mistaken, from the ordinance
Yes,
that
wide
we have here, that you have the wide discretion to do it. But I think that for our sake, that we should know going
Understood.
forward. Like
Understood.
just to have that.
Yes. So, and I would say,
Peace of mind.
it may seem willy-nilly, but really it's not. And I guess if you look at the slides, you can see those people that we are now treating as these community organizations that we don't charge. They're listed on your presentation. There is no willy-nilly. These are the organizations. Whether those organizations continue to be classified in that way is the second bullet on the last slide. We're looking at, do we need to define them in a different way? But right now, there is no question. We have those groups identified. They're on your slide. There's no question. And they have been historically, and they are today.
So it seems, this was I think a very worthwhile and important discussion that we had tonight. There was a problem that was been presented. I really appreciate everybody that came out and to address it. I think we have some thinking to do to try to figure out where we stand on it. We're not going to figure that out tonight. We have to deliberate and think for ourselves a little bit and look at the materials, read this letter. And perhaps we can revisit it, not maybe the next meeting, but maybe in a couple of meetings, and give Parks and Rec, give you and the others that are stakeholders a chance to think about the issues that have been raised and how can we address those issues in a way that's fair to the town, fair to our budget, fair to the kids that are being provided an opportunity through Babe Ruth that they might not have otherwise. And how do we factor all those things together to come up with something that's fair to all? And that's what I would hope that we could achieve.
And what can't be lost is the fact that we understand that this is volunteerism and that this is passion and lifelong devotion to athletics and growth. And the relationship between a coach and a player cannot be understated, how important it is and how much impact it can have on a young growing person. So we do acknowledge all that. I just think this is very complicated, and we'll get it right.
Well, unfortunately, we have a Parks and Rec Commission
Right.
who is on the job and is working to implement best practices. I think we have a liaison here on the Board of Selectmen that comes to these meetings, and I think she could tell you that these are discussions that are happening.
Yes, 100%, and that's exactly where I was just going to go, Jerry. I mean,
So we have a
you have
liaison.
nothing to apologize for. I would agree with Jason, and I agree all the way pretty much down the line. We're all here for the right reasons, okay? Our commission is great. I think that liaisoning and coming back and having conversation, having open dialogue of kind of about what you're doing and how we're working it, and those types of things are going to be very important, and I could certainly help with that. And
Thank
I'm
you.
certainly willing to do so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. So unless, any other comments? I think we'll just take it
Yes,
under
I
advisement.
think she
Yes,
had one
please.
more.
I think I'll make a few comments, but if this person would like to...
Anna Stefanski, 650 Montauk Avenue, New London. I just want to inform you, I don't know if you know this, but for the kids to be qualified under Babe Ruth, they have to be rostered with us. They're going to be on our charter. In order for them to qualify for All-Stars, they're covered by our insurance. However, Shell Shockers, any other AAU team does their rosters or whatever, I have no clue. But for those to be qualified, they are under our rosters, they're under our charter, they're covered by our insurance. So for us, they are Babe Ruth players.
Thank you for that. I
Okay,
understand.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Well, this has been a very interesting discussion this evening, and I think that it's very important for our board to see the passion that we still have for providing for our students, our young residents. This is really the big hub. What's the best way to serve them? As a teacher, I can tell you that there's a very strong correlation between student interest in sports and involvement and the classroom. I was very proud to see in the audience tonight, almost 1/4 of the people in this audience were my former students. And you know that this has a big impact on students' future. And we need to do the best we can to provide services and get adult role models to help them grow and to understand that it's not just about the work you do and get a salary. It's about you, it's about your caring. It's about the importance of relationships and as adults helping our young people to mature in different ways. And I can tell you that the number of times that I had to speak to a student and say, look, if you don't get this work done, I'm going to have to speak to your coach.
Right.
Well, let me tell you, the work came in because they couldn't care. They could care less if I talked to the principal, but talk to the coach, oh boy.
That's true.
So I think this was a very good discussion because it brought out a lot of things. It's not just about finances. It's about opportunities for our young people and seeing, as I said, adult role models who really care about them and want to see them progress. And that's our responsibility, particularly as elected officials, in particular, because, I don't know, I think I missed my calling. I think it would have had a better effect if I'd been a coach. So, but it's unfortunate that so many people had to leave, but I think the board really has appreciated the input tonight, the interest, and I think we'd like you to know that we really feel that this is an important part of the community and that we want to make sure that our young people have every opportunity possible on a fair playing field. That it's not just the students who have money that can get the special treatment and get these special leagues, but it's about our everyday people.
Well
And
said.
to challenge our students, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's on the ball field, to do their best. So I think we're all very, very pleased with the turnout that we had this evening.
Yeah. I would echo that, and you know, I really do appreciate everybody that spoke and was here and helped fill us in, and I really appreciate the various perspectives on the board. Roseanne is a teacher, you know, Candace is having a son in sports, and same with Ann. Tony having played baseball. You and I were the oddballs. What are you going to do? But anyhow, it was a good experience tonight, and thank you, everybody.
Thank
and
you.
We'll try to figure this out,
Very
all
good.
of us, okay?
Thanks.
In a fair way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Very good. We're gonna- and I'm going to read that letter later, and we'll make that part of the record. Ex officio reports?
Do you want to just mention the letter, though? Just so that,
Yeah,
to make it
so-
part of the record?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, why don't you want to just say that?
Okay, so I'd like to make this part of the record. It's a letter dated April 15th, 2026, from Todd Donovan, who was not able to be here tonight, but I'd like it to be attached as part of the record.
Can we just submit it to Sandy and get scanned, or do we want to?
Yeah, well, I'll submit mine to
Yeah,
Sandy
it will go,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure I do that. Okay. Ex officio reports. You have an ex officio?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
All
we
right,
have-
Tony,
all right,
let's
man,
go.
this guy's in-
Okay, where to start? Okay, we started last night. I went to the planning commission meeting, and it was relatively short, but they wasn't all on the agenda, but they did talk about a housing affordability study, which I believe they said would be available in 2027, and a lot of that I think is because of money, probably, paid for. Studies are nice, but they've got to be paid for. Last Saturday, I attended the groundwater sustainability presentation by Professor Robbins at UConn. And it's the first time I heard Professor Robbins talk, but I felt like I knew everything because it was well attended, and a lot of the people in attendance are people that I talk to around town a lot, and you know who they are. Art Carlson and Bob Christensen, the usual suspects. And the pollinator pathway. We're very fortunate in this town that we have a lot of smart people who are environmentally conscious, and it showed at that meeting. And you got to bring up the classic example too of the salt we put on our roads. Everybody knows that one. And the public safety issue then becomes a public health issue. And that was all I've done in the past 2 weeks, except for tomorrow night is the Waterford East Lyme Shellfish Commission. And I mention that because I'm looking forward to it. It's at Waterford Town Hall. So I'm going to walk in there and demand to see Selectmen Atanasio.
There you go.
Selectmen Waterford. So anyway, that's
Right.
Very good.
that's all.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, I had a Board of Education meeting, and they are having discussions about reductions and where they're looking. Nothing has been decided at this point, and they also voted to arm security, and I believe that was a 6-3 vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
I attended the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting. Basically, I'm trying to think. They did the regulations, so they were approved. They've been working on these for years. I think it was when I was on the Inland Wetlands. We had started it years ago. So that was a big accomplishment. And I also went to the Historic Properties Commission. And they are looking for a new chairman because Tony has stepped down. So that was that.
It's in the charter. It's in the
Yeah,
town
exactly.
charter,
He had to step down. The other thing is just for the public, the Board of Finance will be having a public hearing on Thursday, April 23rd at 5:30 at the Community Center. And then also there'll be another public hearing for the Board of Finance on Monday, April 27th at 5:30 at the, that one's at the high school. Monday, May 11th, the annual town meeting is at 7 p.m. at the East Lyme High School auditorium. And the referendum on the budget is May 21st at the East Lyme Community Center, just to have people know the dates or.
Great, and they just added a date today, I just saw a new agenda that was filed this afternoon
Oh.
for April 20th, I believe, at 5:30, deliberations.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's just additional deliberations. I'm ex officio for the police commission, that got canceled because of the conflict that they had, so I don't have a report from the police commission.
I have a couple things. The Harbor Management Shellfish Commission has been kind of dormant recently because of lack of a quorum, but with the appointment of Mr. Paul Grady, the commission can resume. This is happening at about the same time that we're about to get a new harbor master. Jim Spang is going to be stepping down and Steve Alberts is going to be taking his position. However, there's been kind of a holdup at the state level. The governor has to appoint Mr. Alberts, and because of the schedule with the legislative session this year, it's been a challenge. So folks at the state level have recommended that Mr. Alberts be appointed as acting harbor master at the next meeting. It remains to be seen whether that'll happen. Also, the harbor master's boat will be launched next week. So harbor management is alive and kicking, coming back to life. There's a couple events happening for the East Lyme 250 thing that should be discussed. The American Legion is hosting second in a series called Coffee and the Constitution on April 16th, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at the American Legion. And the first one was great. The second one is all about the First Amendment. There's also an event at the library called Liberty to Legacy. That'll be on the 21st at 6:30 at the library. Pre-registration is required. And beyond historical things, the Stars to STEM Planetarium is going to have a show before our next meeting on May 1st. A band called The Liminal Space is going to perform with a special guest, Dan Cunningham on keys. So make sure you make it out to that. Did you get the name right? D-A-N?
I didn't know the name of my band that was in. What is it? Liminal? Okay.
Liminal Space, according to the materials I have. So that's all I have. Harbor Management, 250, and Star System.
Terrific. Thank
you. I'll just follow up with Jason's remarks. Very interesting program at the planetarium, the last presentation, and it's really exciting because it was the night of the space shuttle coming back into the atmosphere, and we could sit there with a giant dome over our heads, and it was like we were there on the spaceship entering back into the atmosphere. And so I'd like to also thank Jason for his involvement in the planetarium and playing a large part in the success of the planetarium and its programs. So thanks, Jason.
It's very kind of you. Thank you.
No, you're rejuvenating it. That's a wonderful thing.
And we got new chairs too.
Yeah.
I saw that, yeah.
We don't, though. We're going to stick with these for a while. Great.
They are rough.
These are rough.
So I'll just a very brief Selectmen's report. Just update everybody on the I-95 Route 161 project up the street. All of the steel has now been placed on the bridge that goes over Route 161. There's some additional steel that will go off to the sides, but it won't interfere with travel on Route 161. So the blasting is done, placement of the steel is done, and that's really important for us for budgetary concerns because when they shut down Route 161, we have to have two complete fire services, north and south of I-95, and that involves a lot of overtime and impacts our budget. But that's behind us now, so hopefully they'll have smooth sailing, and they're on track to complete that project at the end of November. So they're moving right along with it, and we'll see a lot of progress. And that's about it for me for tonight.
Can I just ask a question? Well, actually, I have to give a shout out for the Niantic Bay Boardwalk 5K that's happening this weekend to benefit Main Street. I was going to do it part of my report and I forgot, so I want to make sure that everybody knows they can come out. It'll be a fun time. I will be there, so come on down and join us. It'll be great, and
Where does
hopefully
it
it's
originate?
a beautiful weather. It starts down at McCook's.
At McCook's,
Yeah, and then
okay.
it goes downtown. And
10
then
o'clock.
back. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice. It's a nice day for them, for sure. The second thing is I just wanted to get an update on the Board of Finance, because what I learned was that they requested another $992,000 reduction from the
Yes.
town side. Is that accurate? And you know how that is going, or if we don't have anything to do with that at all, or how
Well-
that works? Because I don't know.
Yeah, well, by charter, what they do, it's their decision, what they do now. And, they are looking for suggestions.
So they've requested suggestions.
They've
from
requested
departments?
suggestions,
Okay.
and, that's a lot of money in addition to, I thought that we did a great job, a very reasoned discussion with the department heads, and tried to be very careful that the cuts that we made, which were substantial, we had certain goals, and we met those goals, and I thought that we handed the Board of Finance a budget that didn't need a lot more work from their perspective, and that's what I was hopeful for. We worked very hard here. And now to try to look for another $993,000, that's going to be very difficult. And to achieve that, there's going to be some very painful cuts that to get to that number. So we'll see if and how they do that.
To Candace's question, that will come back before us, right?
No.
No,
No.
no,
Yeah, I knew that it wouldn't come before us again.
only as voters.
It just was, yeah, I wanted to note it, be cognizant of it, and then how is that working? Because they are requesting more from each department, and just kind of, if we have an update on it, or we just wait until the next meeting, basically, to kind of follow along.
We've asked the department heads to see if they can find any other areas. There's some ideas. I don't want to express them until, I'm ready to present it. Have, Kevin's able to present that to them, and we have a discussion. But it's going to be very tough cuts, I think. So we'll see where that goes and see where we end up.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not aware of any communications from anyone, no?
Just a letter from Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
already
yep,
mentioned that.
glad, yep.
Yep, that'll be
Mr.
part of
Donovan.
it.
And there's no public comment, so there's no response, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, move to adjourn the April 15, 2026 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen at 9:26 PM.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.